Welcome to episode 4 of the Becoming Debt-Free series. If you haven't seen the first 3 episodes on how to get out of debt, I'll be sure to link that below. This episode is going to be how to avoid taking on more debt. If this is your first time here, hello, I'm Erica and welcome to Build Your Moxie. Here I teach people how to be smart with their money so they can enjoy life to the fullest. During this series, I'll be sharing our detailed process on how we paid off over $300,000 in under 3 years and became free from all consumer debt. I'll be sharing practical steps and encouragement along the way. Let's discuss strategies on how to avoid taking on more debt. These are things that we did when we were trying to become debt-free. Okay, the first step on becoming debt-free is an obvious one, but it's avoid taking on more debt. I covered this a bit in episode 2, but you can't get out of debt if you keep taking on more debt. If you're trying to dig a hole, then stop throwing sand back in the hole. Trying not to take on more debt while you are currently in debt is easier said than done, especially if you don't have a stash of money laying around. This brings me to my next tip, which is creating a small safety net or a starter emergency fund. This is an emergency fund, not money for food or to buy something that you haven't saved up for. Emergencies are unforeseen events and they will always happen. A starter emergency fund is for when an emergency happens and it's going to help prevent you from taking on more debt. I find that the less prepared you are, it's more likely that unfortunate issues are going to happen. If you do dip into your emergency fund, make sure you replenish it as fast as you can. So the question you might be asking is, how much should I save in the starter emergency fund? Did you know that over half of Americans are not able to cover a $1,000 emergency expense? If you can't cover $1,000, then it's easy to charge that credit card and take on more debt. If you do that, you are now deeper in the hole you're trying to crawl out of. A good starter emergency fund is saving up $1,000. With the $1,000, you want it accessible enough so if there's an emergency, you have it. But you also want to make it not too accessible so you don't spend it on non-emergencies. Some ideas could be cashing it out and then putting it deep inside your closet or having it in a separate account so it's harder to spend. You kind of want to forget about it in a way. By the way, once you become consumer debt-free, that's when you can have your big emergency fund. For us, we have 6 months of living expenses, and that's for our emergency fund. For other people, they do 3 to 6 months of living expenses for their fully funded emergency fund. The next thing you want to do is make sure you have all the insurances that you need. Like I mentioned before, I find that the more unprepared you are, the more likely that unfortunate issues are going to happen. So when it comes to insurances, you want to make sure that you're covered so you don't go into debt if things happen. For us, we made sure we had health insurance, car insurance, renter's insurance, life insurance, long-term disability insurance, and identity theft protection insurance. Eventually, we'll get the long-term care insurance once we are of age and homeowner's insurance once we have a home, but I won't go into detail for all these insurances for this series. I'll be sure to cover insurances in another video. Even though paying for insurance can seem really expensive when you're trying to get out of debt, it's really important that your bases are covered because emergencies and bad things do happen. Also, these emergencies tend to be for bigger ticket items. Medical debt is no joke and car wrecks are no fun. Okay, number 4 is an easy one. Pay your bills on time and make sure you avoid any extra fees. So just set it and forget it, put it on auto pay and just be done with it. Okay, number 5, understand your bad habits and stay away from temptation. For us, when we were trying to get out of debt, I didn't let myself step into a Target. I knew that it was an area of weakness for me because everything at Target is just so great. Even now that we're debt-free, I forget that I now allow myself to go to Target. So if you have a place that you just can't resist spending money in, stay away. Also, speaking of bad habits, try to identify those. I find that when I'm bored, that's when I tend to want to buy things. So while we were trying to pay off all of our loans, any free time I had, I just focused on my side business and I made some candles instead. So I try to stay busy and make money. So basically the point is try to figure yourself out and then don't make it harder on yourself. Number 6, make a budget and keep track of everything you're spending money on. This will help bring awareness to where your money is going. Whether you are rich or poor, you need a budget. Every sports team needs a game plan. The pros didn't get where they are now because of luck. When you have a budget, you are purposely giving every dollar an assignment, whether it's to give, save, or spend. You should have no dollar that just sits there. If you make $4,000 a month, then every single dollar needs to go somewhere, whether that's to pay for your necessities or pay off your debt. just nothing should be sitting there. If you aren't too great at budgeting or you want to see how we did it, take a look in the description below where I'll link my budgeting videos. I go over the 4 steps of budgeting and also include a monthly budget printable that you can download for free. If you're a computer person like me that likes to have your numbers auto-calculate, I'll also link my budget Excel spreadsheet and Google Sheet in the description below. Alright, number 7 is curb your spending. If you're trying to get out of debt, it's really important to curb your spending and be wise with your purchases. One way to curb your spending is to take a look at your previous expenses and highlight what was a want and what was a need. A need is just the essentials for survival, which is food, shelter, transportation, and utilities, for example. While you're trying to get out of debt, can your wants wait? A couple things you can do to avoid spending money is ask yourself, if your friends didn't like it or if it wasn't popular, would you still want it? Also, another thing you can do is wait 1 week before buying something. Chances are by the end of that 1 week, you might not even want it. Another way to curb your spending is to delete the card information, the credit card or debit card information off of those online stores or off of your phone or computer. When you have a little bit of friction and you gotta go stand up to go get your card to then go buy something, it's really annoying because now everything is just a quick like scan with your face or like a thumbprint. So if possible, delete all that information off of your phone and computer. If you are someone that shops a lot in bed, this is an important one for you. Also, cut up those credit cards that lead you to temptation. A really funny one that I just heard recently is taking like your credit card or debit card and putting it in a colored like cup of water. Then you freeze that in the freezer. So if you want to buy something, you have to wait for the ice to melt. Usually by the time the ice is thawed, you're thinking, oh, maybe I didn't really need that, so you should just put it back in the freezer. Another way to curb your spending is to pay with cash. When you physically give cash for something and then you get something in exchange, it's a lot more painful than just swiping or tapping a card. If you have trouble overspending with groceries, then use a cash envelope, and once the money is gone, it's gone. Another thing you can do is unsubscribe to any emails of any of your favorite stores so you're not tempted to buy something when there's an awesome sale. Okay, next is stop saving up for a big expense if you're trying to pay off your debt. I'm talking about saving up for a house, a car, or like a big vacation. When you split your focus and you're trying to do 3 or 4 goals all at the same time, you end up moving slower and sometimes you don't even reach any of the goals. Instead of saving up for a big expense, take all that money and just pay off your debt instead. You're gonna see your goals through so much faster. I'm not gonna go into major detail on this, but when you're trying to multitask, you are less productive and it ends up taking you a lot longer than if you just focused on one task at a time. Also, when you are trying to pay off your debt, you're trying to avoid having this debt forever because of the interest payments that are accruing. Interest payments to me is like throwing money out the window, and interest from debt is compounding, which is not fun. I rather get rid of all the debt first and then save up for a house or for a vacation instead. For us, once we got out of debt, saving up for a $10,000 vacation was so much easier than if we tried saving up for a vacation during our debt-free process. The next recommendation I have can be considered an unpopular piece of advice to some, but it has helped us so much and a lot of others pay off their debt real quick, and this is to temporarily halt your retirement investments just while you're trying to get out of debt. I just mentioned trying to reach multiple goals simultaneously can slow down your progress, so for us, this is just the direction that we took. If you go into attack mode and just try to get rid of all that debt, you will be better off in the long run. We personally paused retirement just during the time we were trying to pay off our loans, and because of this, we were able to pay off our loans super fast, and now we are right back to investing for retirement. Now we are investing a lot and having compound interest work for us instead of against us. However, at the end of the day, this is your plan. You do whatever you want, but this is just the direction that we took. Next is live below your means. If your income is less than your monthly bills, then something will need to change. Either you need to increase your income or decrease your spending. That being said, spend less than what you make. See where you can cut your cost. If you're super strapped, then take a look and see if there are ways to make your housing and transportation cheaper. You also might need to get a side job. In the next episode, I'm going to be sharing ways to raise your income and get out of debt faster. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode in the Becoming Debt-Free series. I'll link the other episodes to the Debt-Free series right here.